carnivore carrot cake with real carrots. These are not meat carrots. If you want to be a Nazi and get on me about using carrots, feel free. Carrots are relatively low oxalate, they're low carb, and I happen to love carrot cake. Today I am just using a super simple recipe. This recipe is on my Instagram, and I do have specific measurements on here for anyone who needs it, but I'm going to show you that I don't use measurements. Anytime I use this Equip Foods protein powder, it's more about a certain consistency. And so I create measurements for people who need them, but I want to encourage you, when you buy this stuff, the texture is the key. This is made from pure beef isolate protein. So this is like eating beef in a bag. So it's literally just beef, stevia, and the flavoring. This is what I make my carnivore brownies out of, carnivore ice cream, and carnivore carrot cake. We're actually gonna start in the blender, and I'm gonna use the eggs, yolks and whites in this recipe. So you can make this version without egg whites if you're sensitive to egg whites. Just use the yolks, but keep in mind that when you add the whites, it becomes more fluffy. And when I'm making a carrot cake, I want it to be fluffy. So I'm gonna add all 18 of these egg yolks straight into the blender. As sweetener, I like to use NuNaturals alcohol-free liquid stevia. This is something that I've used for over 15 years. It's the only brand of stevia that I trust 100% and that I've not had anyone really have issues with. Although I think that glycine would be a perfectly great replacement. You could also do allulose, monk fruit. But if you don't like stevia, I would encourage you to try this one because it doesn't taste like regular stevia. It doesn't really have that bitter aftertaste. And I have surprised a lot of people with it. So I like their vanilla alcohol-free tincture because vanilla goes well with a lot of desserts. I did not measure it, but I have the measurements again on my Instagram. So I'm just adding the wet ingredients as well as the sweetener, a little bit of baking soda. This is aluminum-free baking soda, again, not measuring it, and a little bit of salt. And generally, I am gonna add cinnamon and ground ginger to this recipe, but I'm leaving it out. And it'll just be super simple and delicious. This is the part where we add the carrots. So my favorite part is actually adding the protein powder. Some people like to add it straight to the blender, and you can do that. But keep in mind that overmixing can actually make your cake or your brownie go flat. So I like to transfer this batter into a big bowl and then mix in the protein powder with my own hand or a fork. I'm not going to measure anything. It's all about the consistency. What I want is to incorporate as much protein powder as possible while having the batter remain wet. Once it's too dry to fully mix the protein powder in, that's when you know you've had enough. And when it's ready, you want it to be sticky and almost like taffy. So it's fully incorporated and it's still quite wet. And I could bake it like this. It would still be incredible, but I want this to be a super protein dense treat. So I'm gonna add even more protein powder, probably an entire bag. So if you wanna measure that out, it's gonna be 18 eggs and an entire bag of Equip protein. And this carrot cake honestly gets better every time you eat it. It's better the next day. Okay, so now it's super thick. And I'm going to pour it into my greased baking pan. You can grease your pan with tallow, MCT oil, butter, whatever you want. You can also add fat to this recipe, but I like to just keep it simple and do the eggs and the protein powder. But if you're doing a higher fat approach, you could make a butter cream cheese frosting, or you could add fat straight to it. color is incredible. I'm just gonna bake it for, so this recipe actually takes a little bit longer in the oven. It's a very, very large batch. So it's probably gonna bake for 25 to 30 minutes at 350.